So if you look at the study that's being done again by IDC, we are about 5 times faster at half the cost compared to traditional platforms like Java or .NET, right? There are fundamental reasons why. Again, there is no upfront capital expense. If you imagine today, if you were to build a project, you would have to first buy the servers, but also buy these servers in advance in projection of a number of users that you're going to have, the amount of data that you're going to have. You're going to be worrying about upgrades and maintenance. And of course, as you build more applications, you need to buy more servers. But on Force.com, there's no need for that. One user license can be scaled across multiple applications and be built for your enterprise. Again, a snapshot of a research that's done by Nucleus. They have done a comparison study, again with end customers, developers, and also ISVs, vendors who write software. And they realized that on average is about 4.9 times faster to build applications on Force.com versus Java or .NET. So what exactly are the components on Force.com that makes it faster? If you look at what the requirements are in the enterprise space, there are these fundamental things that's required. You need a database. You need to be able to integrate, and hence you need API. There are certain business workflows that needs to be done and modeled in your enterprise space. So you need workflow. You need UI. Very important to management are reports and analytics. And of course, all the access controls. And today when we talk about going on the cloud and the increasing mobile workforce, you need to make sure that you have that same access anytime, anywhere on your mobile devices as well. So if you talk about, in general, what's the difference between development on Force.com and traditional platforms like Java or .NET, we talk about the 80-20 rule. On Force.com, you spend 80% of the time using point-and-click customization, and for more advanced and complicated features, that's where the 20% of coding will come into play. But on traditional platform, you spend a lot of time developing, writing codes, then customizing and configuring. And what's more, today, if you build an application on Force.com, you're able to enable collaboration on your applications. So if you look at this, you could essentially say, if something happens on my shipping, I want everybody who's involved in that shipment or that invoice be sent and be notified, just like how you're being notified on Facebook when your friends update the status. You could essentially collaboration enable any applications that you build on Force.com. Okay. A quick example of some of our customers who have built applications. Citibank has deployed a IT governance and change control in just 6 weeks. You can see a insurance company dealing with claims in less than 10 weeks. So you see, majority of our customers, when they talk about projects, we're talking about weeks, not months. And that's in general the feedback that we're getting from our customers. But what are some of the typical concerns about cloud computing? What are some of the questions that you will ask about cloud computing? Is it secure? Is it highly available and fast? Can I customize it? Can I integrate? And how do I manage change? So first of all, Salesforce, the #1 thing that we care about most is security. The reason why is because a lot of your data sits on our server. Our customers, we have 87,000 customers, and these data sits in our database. So we need to make sure that our customer trusts us and that the data is secure. And hence, we put a lot of effort in terms of certification. So we have ISO 27001 certification, and also SIS Trust and SAS 70 Type 2 certification that covers not just the infrastructure, but also cover the processes that we have when we hire the people into organizations that will work on our systems and also work with you as customers. And of course, it doesn't just stop at our side. We of course build a lot of features and functionalities that you as customers could configure and decide who in your company have access to the right information. So you could control who exactly have access to certain fields and who have access to certain reports and dashboards. And of course, we make sure that we invest a lot in making sure that the servers don't go down. We have a 99.9, actually 0.95% reliability today. And we consistently produce all this information on our website. And we're able to scale. And that's a value proposition of cloud computing as well. If you think about it, if I want to increase the number of users in my organization, what do I have to do today if I have servers sitting in my organization? I need to buy new hardware. I need to redesign the software. But on the cloud computing model, all these things are transparent. If you add users, you buy more user licenses, and everything else scales accordingly and automatically. And how do we ensure performance? So we have a technology that is patented in the back end that will optimize all the requests that comes to our servers. So if you have 10 records or you have millions of records, you still get the same performance. We're talking about less than 300 milliseconds in terms of performance to do a query of data from our system. Okay? And if you look at the reliability, the blue line shows the page response time, and the red chart shows the amount of transactions that are processing. So as we scale up in terms of number of customers that we get, and of course the number of transactions that our system process, you notice that the page response time do not actually go up, it actually comes down. And today, we maintain that level of performance that's important and crucial for enterprise space, because users want to be able to access to information fast and quick. As I mentioned earlier, we want to make this information available to our customers because we believe that to make sure that our customers are comfortable with putting their data as well as their processes on our system, we need to build trust. And trust is about transparency. So on trust.salesforce.com, you're able to get best practices. You're also able to understand what the performance levels are in our servers that your data is being hosted on our system. And of course, you're able to do real-time customizations on our system using a point-and-click environment and build audit tracking into the system transparently by configuring and checking a checkbox. And other customizations can also be possible, either through more configuration using our point-and-click page editor, or you could use a code-level customization to build interfaces that are unique to your businesses, or build application logic, or build workflow, which are essential to business environments. And of course, when we talk about the systems, the data in place, and the processes in place, once the data in the system, you need to get visibility. You need to understand what's happening in your company, and hence you need to get real-time insights. Right? And Salesforce is able to provide real-time insights through our dashboard technology. So anytime information is updated in our system, it's being updated in these reports and dashboards that you could access either on the mobile phone or on the web browser. And the value proposition is just that once you build once on Salesforce.com, Force.com platform, you deploy it on the web, you can also have it available on all mobile devices. Okay? And what's important to note is that it's not just a version that you buy. All our customers are always on the latest version. So when you are invested onto Salesforce.com, you get all the upgrades as long as you are subscribed to our services. And when we release the features and functionalities, it's not just features that Salesforce wants to build, but are features that our customers feedback to us, and based on what's the most popular features that our customer want, we put that into our product roadmap as well. Okay. And of course, you could extend all of that by choosing any other applications that our partners may have already built. so you do not have to reinvent the wheel and build it all over again in your company. From an integration standpoint as well, there is no need to rip and replace. To replace any of the system, we're able to integrate with other cloud providers like Facebook or Amazon Web Services or Google, or integrate with backend systems like ERP or desktops or any other developer toolkits that will allow you to build other applications that you already have in your enterprises. And how do we do it? We're able to deliver all this through a multi-tenanted architecture. What we mean by that is any applications that you build, any customizations that you build, and every time we upgrade our system, all these configuration and customizations that you have done for your company does not break. We guarantee that you will upgrade together with it. So although the next day you get a new version of Salesforce that is deployed, all your systems and functionalities will continue to work on the Force.com platform. Alright? So what I'm going to do right now is to switch to a demonstration mode to show you some of the features and functionalities that are unique to our platform and that is essential for the enterprise space. Okay? So let me just switch. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, this is a typical Salesforce interface, but I'm going to show you how you can actually build applications that are very different from typical Salesforce application. An example would be this, that Starbucks actually built a volunteer site. And how this came about was because President Obama was about to be inaugurated to be a president. And just 3 weeks before that, Starbucks decided to say, let's build a volunteer site so that we can align ourselves with the president's campaign. In just 3 weeks, they're able to build a site like that and deploy it on time. And what's also interesting to note is that in the first few days, they're able to get 1 million visitors just on their web page itself. And there's no additional things they have to do to make sure that it performs and scales up to the 1 million users that are using this website. Okay, so just let me walk you through how this is being built. In Salesforce, you can also build a sandbox. What is a sandbox? A sandbox interface is essentially a development environment where you will be able to deploy all the codes and customizations that you have done in a test environment without actually having to invest in a separate environment. As soon as you're done, you can publish this to the production environment and all your customizations are pushed out into that using a point and click interface. Right? Imagine that cost saving. So I am at this web page right now. There are a few things that you could do. You can see that we are able to get Flash, Ajax elements onto this web page as well, and to be able to look at all these dynamic components. So Salesforce, you could essentially use it to build any application that you want, as long as embracing the open web technology standards. At the same time, integrate with your backend database that sits on Salesforce. For example, if I want to look for a volunteer opportunity in my area, I can put in a zip code and click search, and it will go into the backend database of Salesforce and pull out all the records that matches the zip code. And then I can browse onto the elements, and then if I like the volunteer, I can click on I am in. Once that is done, it's being logged in the backend of Salesforce that I have actually volunteered my services, and Starbucks is able to print out a voucher for me so that I can enjoy a free Starbucks coffee. So all this is built in about 3 weeks on our platform. So let's take a look at how this is being done. So if you go back to this interface, I'm logging in as an administrator, and hence this is the Salesforce view. Once I log into the Salesforce view, you can see that I have a dashboard, and this tells me exactly how many people are clicking on I am in, that little button that I just clicked. how many email registrations that I have today, and how many opportunities for volunteerism that there are across the various states in the US. And again, all this information is captured in real time. As soon as users sign up on the web page that you saw earlier, this information gets captured in Salesforce, and you can run reports and dashboards against them. Okay. So how do you build the various objects in the system? So in Salesforce, we have tabs that maps to objects in the system. So the list of volunteer opportunities that you saw earlier, it's all being done and entered through the Salesforce system. So these are all the records that we have in the system. And when I click on them, these are the details of the records that I have. So once I make any changes to these records here, it gets reflected in real time in the web page that you saw earlier as well. Okay? So maybe let's take a look at the data model that goes into building this. So in Salesforce, it's very easy to configure these things. There's no programming to be done. You can create various objects. So you can see in the volunteer opportunity object, I have all these various custom fields that I could add to this object. So you could imagine of building any custom objects that your businesses would want, whether it's an expense object, an invoice object, or a leave approval form. Okay? So how do you actually build an object? Let's take a quick example. I simply could click on New Custom Object. And for example, I want to be able to add a new volunteer partner to capture who are the various partners that I work with to provide all these volunteer opportunities. Right? Then on the bottom, you can see that I can have optional features that I can turn on immediately. I can allow reports, I can track activities, assign out tasks and events. I can also track field history, so I know exactly who made what changes to the fields and when they made these changes as an audit trail. So you can see all these features are already inbuilt onto our platform. There's no additional development that you need to build to make these features available to you. Yes? Yes, we do. Multi-language is definitely something that we support. We support about 20 different languages today, including Korean. Okay. So you can click Save. So today I'm creating a custom object. So a custom object is like an Excel table. I will select the color of the tab and click Next. And then I can decide who can see these tabs. So as I mentioned earlier, you can build a lot of security in the system, and over here you can configure who has access to that tab or that functionality. Click Next. Then you can add it to the application. I'm going to add it to the Pledge 5 application and click Save. So in just a few easy steps, I've just created a custom object, Excel table, like an Excel table that captures all my volunteer partners. And then I can add fields, columns in these Excel tables. I can click New. And a series of different types of fields are made available to me, and you can configure it. So there is no low-level SQL language to learn. There's no developer or IT that needs to help you to build these things. And the advantage of that is that you can work with your business team to sit down and model and prototype all these things very, very quickly. So I'm going to add a phone number. And when I choose to add a field, I can also decide at the field level, down to the field level, who have access to this field, to decide whether they can see it and whether they can edit it or only read it. So all these things are again configurable down to the field level. And of course, add it to the different page layouts. So you could essentially create different page layouts to capture different types of forms. For example, if you have a volunteer partner that is a key partner, you might want to capture more information and design a different form for key partners versus normal partners. Okay, and then to be able to classify them, I'd like to add a pick list to say this is type. Whether is it a national partner, is it a local partner, or a regional partner. So in just a few minutes, what I've done was essentially to create two fields for this object and made it available in my Pledge 5 application here. You can see that I have the Volunteer Partners tab. When I click on it, I can click New, and immediately I could enter information into the form. So all these forms are built out automatically by the Force.com platform. There's no need for you to redevelop it, right? So I could add in new records right now. And there I have a record being created. If I do not like the layout of this form, I could very easily, as an administrator, edit the layout by moving them around the screen. I can even make this compulsory by setting this as required, so that the next time when the users enter the form, they will need to enter information here because it's a compulsory field with a red line. So you can see that on the Force.com platform, to create an application, to create any objects, is very fast and easy to create all these things. Yes?
Do you have any Korean version of this development page?
Oh yes, for sure. So for each user, you could essentially configure the language. So if you'd like to see the various languages, it's all here. I could essentially switch to the Korean language and say save. And essentially you would have the Korean version of the application and work with it. Right? So I'm going to switch back so that I can navigate. All right. Welcome. So let's talk a little bit about dashboards. So in Salesforce, as soon as you have information in the system, you can build various dashboards like that. In the past, developers would have to build dashboards and reports for you. But on the Force.com platform, all these things can be done by business users, by business power users, or admins could build it once and deploy across enterprises. So how do you simply add a dashboard component? It's very simple as well on Salesforce. You just click Edit, and you go into a design view. What's going on? Okay, so some of the functionalities when we launch will have tours like that, so that we can guide our users on how to use it for the first time and to give them a step-by-step instructions. So a lot of our users actually do not have to go through formal training to actually use our systems, because the help and training materials are all there on the system. Okay. So to build that, I want to track maybe the number of people who have clicked on the I am in button today. So what I need to do is to drag a gauge here onto the area that I want, and then under data sources, pull out the reports that I want. So maybe I've already built a report called I am in, and drag and drop it to this element. And all you have now is a data source that comes from a report and the visual element of the chart that you just built. And everything happens in real time. And then you can set different levels of indicators to show you where you want in terms of the quota. So maybe 20, 40, and 80. And you click Save. And now you can see that to hit 80, I'm about halfway there, pretty close right now. So once you save, you have built essentially a dashboard very easily on Force.com platform. Right? So that's again the power of the platform. Now beyond that, what we can also do on the platform are a few other features and functionalities. First of all, in a lot of processes, you will need approval workflow. So maybe let's look at a different organization right now. So when I log on as a salesperson, say in UCI, this is a different company, they sell laptops and PCs. So if you log on, you can see that I have a chatter section, and chatter is about collaboration. You can see that because I'm working on a deal right now for this company called United Partners. It's a $61,000 deal, and Elliot, my boss, has actually met with the decision maker, and they said that we, UCI, it's the top choice, but they're concerned about price, and asked me to revise my price quotation. So every time I log into Salesforce, all this information is pushed out to me through the chatter network, without me having to go and talk to my boss, or my boss sending me an email. So imagine the power of the collaboration. So now today I can then click on this record, and I can then look at the historical information that I have with this deal. So it's about 61,000. It's at the price quotation stage right now. So if I want my boss to do approval, I could build an approval process in Salesforce. Now to build an approval process on Salesforce, it's very straightforward. You can configure it like that. Okay, it looks a little bit too much data here for a first-time demonstration, but there are a few areas that I want to point out. Essentially, you could build out multiple approval steps to say that anything between 10% and 25%, you need a sales manager approval. And if you want to see it in a visual view, you could actually see it like that in the flowchart view, right, and print it out. So what's the value here again? That now your IT organizations can work with businesses without having to explain a lot of technicalities and show them this chart and work with them to model this through a point and click interface to change all these rules. Right? It's very simple to change. So at this point in time, what I can do now is to say submit for approval. And what happens is that the record is being logged and is being routed to Elliot, who is my boss, for approval. So now Elliot could essentially log on to Salesforce to either click on approve or reject or to reassign. But what if my boss is very busy? He's always traveling. So there are features that are within Salesforce that allows you to do that. So for example, okay, I think this is right. Whoops. Sorry. Apologies. Whoops. Oh gosh. Sorry, I apologize. This is not my PC, so I think there's something wrong. Either I forgot the password or I couldn't see what the words are. But essentially, what I want to show you is an email will be sent out to Elliot. And Elliot could use the BlackBerry or the iPhone or any of the web devices and log on to his or her email and reply to the email and say, approved. And what will happen is that this email will be routed to Salesforce, and Salesforce will be able to detect the keyword approve or not approve, and then reflect that status here through Salesforce. So now your boss can do approval when he or she is traveling without actually having to log on to Salesforce. All right? So that's the other value proposition that we have built onto the Post.com platform. A lot of workflow processes, a lot of approval processes can be modeled using a point-and-click environment, just like that. And then have all these things configured in real time and route to the right people for approval processes to happen in your organization. All right? So I'm going to come back to the presentation deck and wrap it up. So a few things. I think what I hope to achieve today is to show you that cloud will be able to put IT spend back in balance. Why? Because a lot of IT systems today, you have to spend all these things up front. It's capital expenses versus operating expenses. You have to build future capacity, buy future capacity in advance, predicting the number of users you're going to have in the future that you're uncertain of. But what cloud does is to turn this entire model around, to say that you buy what you need now, and then as your users scale, as your needs scale, you buy more. And that's in line with your operating expense, and that's in line with your business growth. Right. What's also important to know is that cloud is not just a technology. Don't think of cloud as a technology. They are enablers, but they are not technology that you just put in the organization and hope that it will do its magic. You need to think of cloud as a commitment. Why? Because number one, it reduces, in fact, it removes the capital expense element, but you're able to now align IT with business, because now your cost investment is now aligned with the amount of business you're going to bring in, the amount of value you're going to create in your organization. And of course, because now you're able to engage your internal audience and internal customers quicker and faster to build all these applications, you're able to get a lot of engagement with them. So, in terms of best practices and pitfalls, I hope you can take these lessons back. Adopting the cloud doesn't mean that you have to start all over again. You can retain what you have right now and innovate and add value, right? Add value to it. You don't have to preserve the familiar, right? You've seen the earlier presenter, Mr. Kim, talk about the innovation dilemma. You need to make this cloud is a disruptive technology. You need to make the first investment for you to realize the amount of investments, the high value of investments that you're going to get in the future. You need to make that leap right now. So if you're going to continue with whatever they're familiar with today, you aren't able to get the maximum returns that you can get on the cloud computing platform. And of course, things have changed in the past few years. Bandwidth has grown, and your business requirements are getting more and more complex, and your business users want more and more features. When bandwidth has grown, you can see that mobile devices has proliferated as well. There are more and more mobile devices. By building it on the cloud, immediately you can make all these users mobile friendly. And of course, you can make all these functionalities in your company align with your businesses. All right? And of course, don't mistake the consumer web, whatever that you see on the cloud computing web, for enterprise class web. Enterprise cloud computing expect high availability, like what you saw, security, and very deep customization that we're able to customize for your businesses. And it makes sure that we protect all your data integrity as well, and that everything that you host on the cloud is secure. All right, so with that, thank you for your time. And I'll take some questions now, and if not, I'll be around. I would love to talk to you if you have further questions. All right, 감사합니다.
혹시 그 질문 있으신 분 계신가요? 통역을 해드리겠습니다.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's very fundamental.
Yeah. Okay.
Most of South Korea's big size enterprise, even small size company, they believe such as IT infra and the platform and database, they believe their own asset.
Right.
So it's very hard to change their mind. So do you have any strategy to understand Korean situation?
Right, yes, yes. So typically when we talk to these organizations, we understand their concerns, and a lot of customers, big customers like you mentioned, they have these concerns when we talk to them as well. But how we get around those barriers are a few things that I can share right now. First of all, when we sit down and understand their requirements, we try to tell them that a lot of these things that they're concerned about are mainly myths. So what we do is that we sit down with them to talk to them very detailed about security, sharing with them the security models that we have. Some of our customers actually sent their technical team to look at our data center practices. They actually visit our data center facilities. They actually talk to the people that work on the security side. And they are very reassured. In fact, I have one customer who came back and said that, wow, the best practices that I've seen in Salesforce when I visit the data center, it's world class. So we have put in a lot of investment into all these things to make sure that it's enterprise ready. And it's about really sitting down with your stakeholders, with your customers, to really help them understand what the value is. and address each and every concern. So it's not going to be a session that you're going to be sit down and be able to explain very quickly, but you need to be able to engage them and find out what their key concerns are, and then work with them and show them the value in each and every part. So that's what we do. And if you're concerned about building, customization and all that, we actually sit down with them to build an app. We say, choose an application. We can build this in this time. Tell me how long can you build it, and we built it out for them. So we actually proof it out.
Maybe Salesforce.com have some cases in South Korea.
Yes, we do have quite a number of customers in Korea, and my colleague Scott will be able to share with you who these customers are. So we have financial customers, we have insurance customers, big and small organizations as well. Yes.
질문 있으신가요? 네, 그럼 이상으로 마치도록 하겠습니다.
Yes, it's a question from this lady here. Sure. Okay, very good question. So to answer the first question, do we use virtualization? We call it multi-tenanted architecture. What we mean by that is that everything that we build, you can think of it like a supercomputer. And how we have built it is, we use many small servers internally within this multi-tenanted architecture to scale up to meet our customers' needs. So it's a mix of different technology that we employ, but at the heart of it all, it's the multi-tenanted architecture and the real-time query optimizer. Which brings me to a second question. We talk about how do we scale up and down. So we have this technology that's able to scale up and down performance, transparent to you. It optimizes the query in the backend. So if you have one record today versus hundreds of millions of records in the future, you can still get the same performance. And I've seen this in play. So what we did was, one of our largest customers called Japan Post. They are like a bank, insurance agent, and postage services all in one. I think they have today about 100,000 users. And on one object, they have about close to 200 million records. So when they did the query in real time in live, in a seminar like that, it's sub 300 milliseconds in terms of performance. So that's the value of the cloud computing platform. Yes.
Do you mean that you have a single platform for the multi-tenancy customers?
Yes.
I mean, for different companies as well? So one single platform?
Yes. So one platform, all different customers are built on the same platform, but we put in a lot of policies in place to make sure that your data is secure and it's not, and the other company can't see your data. Yes. Welcome. Any further questions?
한국말로 보니까 이게 B2B도 되지만 B2C 솔루션을 위주로 많이 설명하신 것 같은데 보통 저희들은 기업을 위한 솔루션들을 많이 개발하고 있는 업체들이 많지 않습니다. 네, 그 중에서 이런 플랫폼이 아무리 유연하게 작동을 한다고 하더라도 복잡한 구조 속에 있는 기업용 솔루션, 그리고 식사, 만들기 같은 그런 기업용 솔루션을 만들어낸 것들을 UI도 다양하죠. 그런 것들을 그대로 표현할 수 있는 사례나 방법이
다음 세션에서 지금 질문하신 부분에 대한 말씀을 드립니다.
So, Scott, you answered the question? Okay, good. All right, 감사합니다. Thank you very much.